The Middle East story is often one of conflict, with the Israeli-Palestinian struggle at its core. For years, Hamas in Gaza and Israel have fought bitterly, each round bringing sorrow and destruction. Amid this, some nations tried to build bridges, Qatar chief among them. Qatar, a wealthy Gulf state, became a key mediator, using its resources and connections to talk to all sides. It hosted Hamas leaders in Doha, a move that drew criticism but also kept communication open. Qatar argued, to make peace, you must talk to your enemies. This approach helped broker ceasefires and prisoner exchanges, offering rare hope, but Qatar's role was always precarious. It balanced being a US ally, hosting a major American military base while maintaining ties with groups like Hamas. This duality made Qatar both a friend to the West and a host to its adversaries. In early 2025, another round of violence erupted between Israel and Hamas. As before, the world turned to mediators, Qatar, Egypt, and the US, to stop the bloodshed. Diplomats scrambled to broker a ceasefire, but trust was low. Still, there was hope that, as in the past, a deal could be reached. No one realized this time would be different. Beneath the surface, tensions simmered, and a single event was about to shatter the fragile process. The region stood on the edge, unaware that everything was about to change. Qatar's unique position would soon become its greatest vulnerability. The world's eyes were on the negotiators, but the real story was unfolding in the shadows. The peace everyone hoped for was about to slip away. The next chapter would not be about negotiation, but about fallout. The Middle East was about to be transformed forever. The cost of this complicated friendship was about to be revealed. The road to the Doha airstrike began with disputed intelligence and mounting desperation. Israeli security services believed Hamas leaders in Doha were plotting major attacks inside Israel. The reports described coordinated operations targeting civilians, threatening mass casualties. Israel's war cabinet faced immense pressure for a decisive response. The idea that Hamas leaders were safe in Qatar while planning attacks was politically explosive. Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas's political leader in Doha, became the focus, now seen as an active military commander. The Israeli government decided to act in secret, fearing US intervention would delay or block the operation. Striking a US ally was unprecedented, but Israeli leaders believed the threat was imminent. The risk of inaction, they felt, outweighed the diplomatic fallout. The decision was made: eliminate the threat at its source. The intelligence would later be questioned, but the course was set. Israel prepared for a strike that would change everything. The stage was set for a move that would upend the region. No one could predict the consequences that would follow. On September 9, 2025, Doha was calm, until the unthinkable happened. Israeli F-35 jets flying undetected approached the city from the Persian Gulf. Their target, a luxury villa housing Ismail Haniyeh and senior Hamas officials. At 11 p.m., precision-guided bombs struck, obliterating the villa and shaking the neighborhood. The explosions shattered windows, damaged nearby homes, and left civilians dead and injured. Emergency services rushed to chaos and devastation. The attack killed Haniyeh and several Hamas leaders instantly. But the blast also claimed Qatari and foreign civilian lives. The operation was militarily successful, but the political cost was immediate. Israel had crossed a line. Striking a sovereign capital, not just a militant leader, the city's sense of safety was destroyed in seconds. The world would soon see the fallout. The rules of engagement in the region had been rewritten. Nothing in the Middle East would be the same. In Doha, confusion gave way to horror as the scale of the attack became clear. Initial rumors of an accident faded. The evidence pointed to a military airstrike. Israel quickly claimed responsibility, calling it a necessary act to prevent imminent attacks. The Israeli government framed the strike as self-defense, but the world saw devastation. Al Jazeera broadcast images of rescue workers digging through rubble, stunned residents, and bodies carried away. The attack shattered Qatar's sense of sanctuary and trust. For many, it was a betrayal. Israel had struck a country that had tried to mediate peace. The shockwaves rippled through the region and beyond. The rules had changed. Nowhere was safe and no mediator was untouchable. The sense of security in Doha was gone. The peace process was in jeopardy. The world watched, stunned, as the consequences began to unfold. The Middle East had entered uncharted territory. The world reacted to the Doha airstrike with outrage and division. Qatar condemned the attack as terrorism and expelled Israel's diplomats, halting all mediation. The emir accused Israel of betrayal and sabotaging peace. The US was caught off guard, publicly urging restraint, privately furious at Israel's unilateral action. The strike endangered American interests and undermined months of diplomacy. Arab nations, even those with ties to Israel, issued strong condemnations. Egypt and Saudi Arabia warned of grave consequences for regional stability. The attack isolated Israel, making diplomatic engagement nearly impossible. The European Union called for investigation and restraint. Russia and China seized the moment to criticize US policy, painting Israel as an aggressor. The United Nations called the strike a blow to peace. Pressure mounted on both Israel and the US as the world demanded answers. The fragile balance in the region was shattered. The diplomatic fallout was immediate and severe. The peace process was now on life support. The world's trust in mediation had been deeply shaken. The Doha airstrike destroyed the ceasefire talks overnight. Qatar withdrew as mediator, burning the bridge between Israel and Hamas. Hamas declared all-out war, vowing unprecedented revenge. The group's hardliners took control, ending any hope for negotiation. The US lost its most effective channel to Hamas, left scrambling to contain the fallout. Trust between all parties evaporated. The attack set a dangerous precedent. Mediators were now targets. Future peace efforts became far riskier. The concept of neutral ground was gone. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict was pushed further from resolution. Violence was set to escalate. The region's last hope for peace had collapsed. Israel's leaders faced intense pressure for a decisive solution to the Hamas threat. Intelligence, disputed or not, gave them justification for bold action. The strike was meant to show strength, disrupt Hamas, and deter enemies like Iran and Hezbollah. Israel's doctrine of preemption drove the decision. Strike first to prevent catastrophe. The operation was a gamble, intended to restore deterrence and send a message that no one was beyond reach. But the risks were underestimated. Israel misjudged the fury from Qatar and the damage to its US alliance. The short-term gain of eliminating a leader came at a huge strategic cost. The peace process collapsed and Israel's isolation deepened. The region became more volatile and unpredictable. The decision reflected a siege mentality, survival at any cost. The fallout would haunt the region for years. The airstrike's shockwaves destabilized the Middle East. The Abraham Accords momentum died as Arab states distanced themselves from Israel. Iran and its proxies were emboldened, seeing opportunity in Israel's isolation. Tensions rose on Israel's borders, raising fears of a multi-front war. Gulf states, shaken, questioned their security alliances with the US. Many turned to Russia and China, seeking new partnerships. The old security order was now unreliable. Public anger surged across the Arab world, fueling anti-Israel sentiment. Governments could no longer ignore the outrage. The Palestinian cause gained new energy. The region was more hostile to Israel and its Western partners than ever. The Middle East was on the edge of a new, dangerous era. The Israeli airstrike on Doha was a political earthquake, ending an era of flawed diplomacy. The old rules, respect for mediators and neutral ground, were shattered. Trust was destroyed. The peace process, perhaps irreparably broken. The US-Israel alliance faced its greatest crisis in decades. Washington was forced to reconsider its support for Israel. The region's balance of power was thrown into question. The decision to prioritize military action over diplomacy came at a catastrophic cost. Israel was isolated, its enemies empowered, and the region destabilized. The world must now grapple with the consequences of that night. The Middle East has changed, perhaps forever.